Most influencer and celebrity beauty brands fail. We know this, and usually it doesn't take them very long to fall apart. But one brand's story stands out from all others, not because it had a big name attached to it or because it came out with anything or something genuinely groundbreaking, though the founders might like to think they did, but because it failed much faster and much more publicly than any other celebrity brand in history. It took just 12 days for Reflect to go from the day it launched to the day it closed in complete disgrace. And in that short amount of time, they managed to annoy basically every dermatologist and cosmetic chemist under the sun, contradict themselves with every chance they got, and damage the reputation of a streamer, YouTuber, Twitcher, I believe, who'd done a pretty good job of avoiding controversy up to that time. And in today's video, I kind of want to look at how these influencer brands, some of these influencer brands really get created, how the executives behind them can basically avoid any accountability, and how this brand managed to implode before it ever really got started. Today, I am revisiting Reflect. Here's my initial video on it, but years later, I have some more thoughts and I want to get a little bit deeper into this. So what was Reflect? Seeing as Reflect only lasted less than 2 weeks, there's a very good chance you've never heard of it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. So let's just quickly talk about what Reflect was, so we're all on the same page here. Reflect was an influencer-backed skincare brand that claimed to protect users from the damaging effects of blue light, specifically light from your screens, like your computer or your phone. Red flag number 1. It was a collaboration between streamer and gamer Valkyrae and brand incubator Ideavation Labs, and the brand officially launched on October the 19th, 2021. Now, initially it was only available on the brand's website, though it did launch in Ulta 5 days later, both online and in store, with their chain being their exclusive retailer outside of Reflect's own website. All of the products included the brand's signature trademarked ingredients. One was BLPF, or Blue Light Prevention Factor, which is an unspecified blend of ingredients that they described as a supercharged antioxidant. They also said it was specifically designed to block blue light. We'll get into this claim in a little bit, and the issues that people had with this ingredient later on. Very sus, very... The other trademarked proprietary ingredient was RE3, which is some kind of blend of rice extracts apparently, and they also claimed this helped protect against blue light. Though there was even less information given about this ingredient blend than their BLPF, so I got no idea exactly what it was or exactly what it did. And the lineup consisted of 5 products. The Aura Reset Facial Gel Cleanser, a very gentle foaming cleanser which sold for $18, included ingredients like niacinamide as well as glycolic acid, lactic acids. They claim that it gently exfoliates to restore and reset your natural shine, your natural glow, they should have said, as well as unclogging and shrinking the look of pores. On top of that, they said it also defends your skin against harmful blue light pollution, which we'll have to talk about that claim again and why it's particularly ridiculous to claim that a cleanser can do that. But we'll talk about that in more detail soon. Screen Shield was a defense face moisturizer, a daily moisturizer which sold for $24. On top of the BLPF and RE3 ingredients, it also contained things like glycerin, sodium hyaluronate, things you expect to find in a moisturizer. They claim that it not only shields your skin with essential everyday blue light protection, but that the hydrating and strengthening ingredients prevent future damage and boost your skin's radiance. I tried their products, by the way, and this was my favorite product. Was the eye treatment. It was a lightweight eye gel that sold for $20. It included prickly pear extract and ceramides, as well as the BLPF and RE3, and they claim that it wipes away the stress of blue light pollution, recharges your eyes with an energizing boost, and instantly reverses the dull eyes that come from too much screen time. The Resurrection Eye Mask was a gel eye mask that sold for $24. It contained caffeine and seawater. They claimed that it revitalized tired eyes, targets the dulling and fatigue of screen time, and like the eye gel, that it instantly reverses the dull eyes that come from too much screen time. Lip Guard Moisturizer Balm, another great product, was a lip balm that sold for $12. They claimed it was powered by RE3 again to guard against harmful blue light pollution, as well as healing chronic dryness and leveling up up your skin's natural defense stats. And this was clever to me. Like, listen to the language they're using. It's all fitting with Valkyrie's gaming branding very, very well. And you kind of realize that everything about the brand was designed around promoting this idea that blue light from your screens is damaging your skin, and that you need their products with their special trademarked ingredients to protect you against this type of damage. On their website at the time, which was one of the best websites I think I've ever seen in my life, it was just visually stunning. Like, I loved it. I loved it. So it said on their website, it said things like, if you use a screen, you need blue light protection. And whether that's your phone, computer, tablet, television, or any other device, all digital screens emit potentially harmful blue light waves that can be damaging to your skin. However you spend your screen time, there's a Reflect product for you. They also peppered the site with quotes from Valkyrae saying things like, my entire career depends on being glued to a screen. All of that screen time start to take a toll on my body and my skin. And Reflect is about more than beauty, it's all about your health. Blue light protection is something we can all benefit from. Reflect's marketing clearly leaned heavily on pushing the claim that you need to protect yourself from blue light for your skin health and even your health in general. Their entire brand was built around this idea of the light being harmful. But big question, the main question that you might be asking, is any of this actually true? Is blue light from screens actually damaging my skin? Does blue light actually damage your skin at all? To be fair, there has been a lot of discussion in skincare and dermatology circles about the negative effects of blue light for a while now, and it's widely accepted that it can contribute to pigmentation issues, especially in darker skin tones, as well as oxidative stress and photoaging. But the issue is that this is in relation to blue light from the sun, not the blue light coming from your phone or your laptop. There have been a fair few studies which have shown that the amount of blue light from our devices really just isn't enough to cause any real damage. For example, one study published by a group of scientists from the University of Malaga in Spain shows that because our phones, computer screens, etc. only give out tiny amounts of blue light, the reality is that the sun is actually responsible for almost all the blue light we're exposed to. The study assumed that a typical office worker might spend 8 hours exposed to blue light from a computer screen and indoor lighting, as well as an additional 1.5 hours exposed to blue light from their phone screen, and just 1 hour exposed to actual sunlight. In that scenario, which is fairly typical for a lot of people, the sun would account for 99.59% of all the blue light that a person was exposed to. There was obviously a lot more to the study than just that example, but ultimately they concluded that although exposure to blue light from the sun does have health consequences, including photoaging, hyperpigmentation, artificial sources of blue light lack the potential to induce photo damage to the skin under normal everyday conditions. Another study run by Dr. Ludger Kolbe, the chief scientist of photobiology at Beiersdorf, the brand that owns Nivea and Aquaphor, found similar results. Their research concluded that the amount of artificial blue light emitted during conventional use of electronic devices is just nowhere near enough to trigger harmful skin effects, adding that compared to the emissions of the sun's natural blue light, those of artificial blue light are virtually undetectable. Like, we use it in LED masks, you know? And there are plenty of other studies from all over the world that support the findings I just mentioned, which is why most dermatologists agree that blue light emitted from screens is unlikely to cause any damage, meaningful damage, or noticeable difference to your skin. And that's also why when other brands release products that claim to protect from blue light, they usually even make it clear that they're talking about blue light from the sun, or more often, they just aren't very specific and just mention blue light in a kind of vague sense along with other potential concerns. But they generally make sure not to make the focus of the product blue light from screens. Reflect decided to do completely the opposite though, and as we've seen, they instead focus so heavily on the angle of blue light from screens being a significant problem. From what I saw in their marketing, they barely even mentioned that the sun is a source of blue light. Like, I don't think they mentioned it at all, because we're imagining these people, gamers, streamers, stuck in a dark room with like studio lights, right? Like streaming, it's all from the screen. It's all about screens for them. So Given that they had basically no evidence to support the claim their whole brand was built on, it's probably not surprising that Reflect started receiving backlash pretty much immediately after the brand was launched. In Valkyrie's announcement video for the brand on Twitter, although there were plenty of her followers and fellow streamers who were super supportive about the brand launch and excited to try out the products, there were also a lot of people in her comments accusing her of trying to profit from an issue that just doesn't exist, calling her a scammer, saying she was taking advantage of her young audience. One Twitter user called Dr. Bruce PhD commented saying, "Rachel, there is no peer-reviewed literature clinically assessing the damaging effects of blue light on the skin, and certainly none presented by Reflect. Your company designs trademarks aimed to fool the average consumer into believing that the product is based on genuine science." Others said things like, "I don't know what's worse, this scam product based on pseudoscience being sold to a bunch of impressionable 12-year-olds, or all the other huge streamers joining in on the scam. And this is literally selling a product based on fringe science, read scam, to hundreds of thousands of kids, question mark?" To which another user replied, "Taking notes from Gwyneth Paltrow. That is the one that would, that would get to me. That would keep me up at night." That's all just a small taste of the wave of criticism Valkyrae received on the wake of the brand announcement. And I do mean Valkyrae because she was the face of the brand. She was the one people recognized. She was the one that most of the backlash was aimed at. Like, she had come up with the concept of this brand herself. And Reflect's website, which you might have hoped would be able to clear up some of the criticisms and I guess potentially help Valkyrae deal with the backlash, kind of just made things worse. There was a lot of questionable stuff on there. Like in the FAQs where they explain what blue light does to your skin, as proof for one of their points, they reference an Allure article. Like, not a peer-reviewed scientific study, but an article by the fashion and beauty brand Allure. Like, what? It wasn't exactly the groundbreaking research some might have hoped for. And people who actually read the article pointed out that it doesn't even really support Reflect's claim that blue light from the screen is damaging to the skin. It actually says, "We know that blue light can cause damage to the skin. Whether or not we really have to worry about our digital devices versus blue light emitted from the sun is still in question." It also didn't help that other references to studies they'd used to justify their claims didn't support what they were saying either. Like, pretty much every study carried out on the topic, they stated that blue light from the sun can cause skin damage, but there isn't any evidence that blue light from the screen is also damaging to any real extent. I'm gonna keep repeating that. This obviously led to the brand being criticized and mocked even further, and I can't really blame anyone, to be honest. I mean, what legitimate brand thinks referencing an Allure article is acceptable evidence for making a scientific claim that basically everybody knows is untrue, and then building your whole brand around it? Never mind the fact that the article is actually contradicting what they're saying. Like, it's crazy. And it just kind of got worse from there. In the "what is BLPF" question in the brand's FAQ, they said, "It's like SPF, but for the screen. Our proprietary ingredient blend shields your skin from blue light damage by reducing oxidative stress, stimulating collagen, calming skin, and reducing inflammation." If you know anything about regulation, law even, when it comes to SPF, crazy. Critics, of course, pointed out that at first they say it's like an SPF and that it shields your skin, but then they say that it does that by reducing oxidative stress, stimulating collagen, calming skin, and reducing inflammation. But none of that is what shielding means. Calling it a shield and likening it to SPF makes it sound like some kind of barrier that reflects blue light, just like the brand name Reflect suggests. But that's not what any of the ingredients in the products do. Like, none of them can physically do that. They're really just treating the aftermath of skin damage. There's no prevention here. No prevention like they're claiming. So even if blue light from screens was a real skincare concern, these products wouldn't have even help shield you from it. Like, even if it was a real concern, these products are still doing nothing. Worse yet was a section in their terms of service section on the website, which spread across social media because it said, "We are not responsible if information made available on this site is not accurate, complete, or current. The material on this site is provided for general information only and should not be relied upon or used as the sole basis for making decisions without consulting primary, more accurate, or more complete or timely sources of information. Any reliance on the material on the site is at your own risk." This obviously wasn't a good look for the brand. For a lot of people, this statement was basically them admitting that they were just making shit up. They were like, What are you going to do? And it just made it even clearer to the critics that the brand had never really believed any of this because they were already building in excuses right from the start. But it wasn't just Valkyrae's followers or haters that had a problem with the brand. It wasn't long before the story spread outside of the gaming and streaming worlds, and actual dermatologists started giving their opinions on Reflect's dodgy claims. Well-known dermatologists and scientists like Dr. Dre and Dr. Michelle Wong from Lab Muffin commented on the controversy at the time. Dr. Dre described Reflect's messaging as misleading, particularly when it came to the way they tried to make it sound like their BLPF ingredient was the same as sunscreen, which it isn't, whilst Dr. Wong confirmed that you don't need to protect your skin against blue light from screens, adding that even with a big-ass monitor, you would need days or months to get the same blue light as 15 minutes of sun. And some products got more hate than others from experts like the facial cleanser, which many thought was the most gimmicky of the products. They pointed out that it's not going to do anything to protect your skin if you're just going to wash it off straight away. Like, that was ridiculous. So marketing as something that was powered by blue light prevention factor and defends your skin against harmful blue light pollution just made it feel like a complete scam. But really, it was the whole concept that people had an issue with rather than any individual product, because they all had the same claims. And the backlash was so bad that Valkyrae actually deleted her post announcing the brand almost straight away. And later the same day, she tweeted from her private account saying, "I was told to wait until tomorrow to speak. I'm also very confused." That tweet was also deleted less than an hour later. Within hours of launching the brand, Valkyrae was already in damage control. And from what we're about to hear, her alleged partners in creating Reflect weren't going to do much to help her now that things were going wrong. So whilst Valkyrae was dealing with everyone calling her a scammer, the people in charge of Reflect behind the scenes were doing basically nothing. All they did in those first few days was change the wording slightly on the website. So rather than outright saying that blue light from screens definitely did cause skin damage, it said there is mounting evidence that supports blue light's contribution to photoaging. Other than that, they added a couple more links to studies or articles that didn't really support their claims again, and seemingly told Valkyrae to stop tweeting about the situation. She said she'd been told to wait until she speaks, and her tweets kept being deleted shortly after they were made. Not exactly the kind of support you'd want or expect when you just launched a brand with who was supposed to be experienced industry professionals. On October 21st, Valkyrae tweeted again saying it had been a very, very long 2 days before addressing the backlash, saying, "I've been waiting to speak and to stream until after I see how the Reflect website has been updated. I also wanted to say that all of the hate and the doubt and concerns and the criticism are all warranted and valid. I understand completely where you're all coming from. I also was very upset and confused when I saw the website and there were no links to the studies or credits to the labs or the people that work behind the scenes to make Reflect happen. It's very confusing, lacking a lot of information, but they're updating it now. And after it's all updated, I will stream and I will answer everything and I will talk about my experience and all of it." Joanna Coles, who was the co-founder of Ideation Labs, the company that Valkyrae had partnered with to create Reflect, responded to this later the same day. She decided to ignore the growing controversy altogether, putting out a tweet saying that I'm guessing was ghostwritten by a child she knows, which is a random word generator. It said, "Proud to be your partner on Reflect at Valkyrae. Congrats. Wish I didn't spend 8 hours a day with my screen. Having learned a lot about bold blue light something, I now know to prep my skin and take regular breaks. Mask plus balm equals faves, and we were honored to work with Claudia Paquia, former CEO of Laura Mercier. Bravo, game girl." that was a horrible read. That was horrific. So not only was this tweet an absolute affront to my eyes, but it was also completely and utterly tone deaf. She posted this after Valkyrae had just told her fans that all the hate, doubt, concerns, and criticisms aimed at the brand were valid. And after 2 days of just absolute hate towards Valkyrae, and after she just said that she was so upset and confused by the lack of scientific support of the claims on the website and everything that was supposed to kind of like back her up, That's a crazy time to come out with that mess of a tweet. What the fuck was that? Especially when, as far as I can tell, Joanna and the other people in charge at Reflect were actively stopping Valkyrie from talking openly about what was going on, as well as refusing to publish the research that they claimed to have that would allegedly prove that blue light from the screens was damaging to the skin and that their products would actually prevent that. The only other thing they did was when Joanna Coles made a statement to the Washington Post on October the 23rd saying, this reads normally, by the way, on Reflect's homepage, we included references to academic studies citing the impact of blue light on the skin. Anyone with a computer should read these. It's hard enough for young women to start a business in a male-dominated economy. I am confident that if a male gamer had come up with Reflect, he would have been roundly applauded. Now, this didn't particularly go down well with anyone, really. To a lot of people who were paying attention to this drama, it felt like she was being overly defensive and trying to deflect from the real issue with Reflect. It didn't prove anything. It didn't clarify the science behind their claims. It didn't calm anyone down. It just made people much more annoyed. Later on that day, with the management team behind Reflect having completely failed to manage the controversy in any way, Valkyrie finally went live on YouTube to explain what had been going on. In the live stream, she explained how she got involved with Ideovation Labs in the first place and the creation of Reflect, how they'd convinced her the blue light issue was legit, and what her role had been in the creation of the products. We'll get into some of that a bit more, but first let's focus on the evidence Reflect allegedly has that proves they aren't exaggerating the dangers of blue light from screens. When asked by a fan about the lack of research or scientific evidence on the website, they said, "We ran our own studies. We did our own research. I was really excited because this whole time I was under the impression that all the research and everything I saw was going to be on the website. And when Reflect dropped, it was critical and crucial for there to be information. And there was nothing but a WebMD link. I was confused. I had meetings with them after that for the next few days. That is when I learned that their studies can't be publicized. That is the part I was very naive about. I didn't know that part." She also said that the reason Reflect won't share the research is that the specific research can be stolen by other companies, which kind of seems like a cop-out, to be honest. And I don't mean from her at all, but I think the executives behind it all have convinced her that that's a valid reason when it isn't really. I kind of get that if they've developed some kind of special formula, groundbreaking research that they don't want copied and stolen by L'Oreal, for example, though they did trademark those secret ingredients of theirs, so I don't really see what the issue would have been. If those special ingredients are trademarked, then other brands can't copy them, or can they not just copy the formula? I don't know, but to be honest, that's not even the real issue here. The main problem people have with Reflect isn't that they don't believe these products would protect against blue light, it's just that they haven't proven that blue light from the screens is actually dangerous in the first place. Reflect claimed to have carried out research that proves blue light from the screens is significantly damaging to skin. If you'd made that big breakthrough, then you definitely want to show the evidence and prove it. You are some of the first people to really prove this, apparently, according to you. This kind of research isn't the kind of thing brands would steal. It's not ingredient or formula information. It's just proof that the problem exists, which up to now there isn't. So why wouldn't you want to share that? That's groundbreaking. Saying that they need to keep the secret is like a brand discovering for the first time that UV rays from the sun damage the skin, then developing the first sunscreen and trying to sell it to you without first proving that sunscreen is even needed. Do you know what I mean? You have to prove it first. The discovery that UV rays are harmful isn't the part you don't want people knowing. It's the details of how you formulate sunscreen that you want to prevent the competitors from copying, right? So this revelation that Reflect wasn't going to ever release their alleged research just didn't make sense to anyone. For the many, many critics that the brand had, it just confirmed that they probably didn't have the proof that they claimed, that it was all made up. And obviously, because there's nothing there. And it sounds like Valkyrae was done with all Reflect's bullshit as well by that point. She was joining in the hate train. She was like, I'm fucking done. She went to say in a live stream, with how the website launched and also knowing that the research can't be on the website, it makes me not want to be involved. I was excited for the confirmedness, I can point to it and be like, look, they researched it and studied it, but it can't be there. So I don't really know. That is why I want out. No matter what I say, it doesn't matter that I saw the studies. It doesn't matter that the company did its own research. I don't know how to continue with it. And after that, it really was the beginning of the end for Reflect. They still launched in Ulta as planned the day after Valkyrie's live stream, but it was very obvious to everyone that she wanted nothing to do with the brand anymore. There was even a leaked conversation between her and fellow YouTuber Ludwig, with her saying, "They just don't understand how this ruins my brand. If the research isn't public, I really needed it to be public, lol. I'm so dumb. I should have asked more questions. I just thought it was obvious it would be there." She also said, "They hate me for leaving the contract, but it's looking possible, so I'm hopeful. Right now, we have been going back and forth with PR and lawyers and a statement, and they are just trying to get me to say the dumbest shit. Like, while I will still be using Reflect products, I hope nothing but the best for this passionate team. I really messed up trusting these people," she says. Then on October the 30th, it was announced that the brand would be shutting down. Ulta pulled all Reflect products from their shelves and online stores, and Reflect's own website was completely wiped, leaving just one page with a message reading, "Reflect is no longer available. Thank you to all who played important roles, conduct research, develop products, create a brand, and serve as partners along our journey. While we believe in the formulations created after further reflection, have decided to move forward on new paths, effectively terminating the Reflect brand." Reflect's disastrous attempt at skincare lasted just 12 days. So I think we need to question here, and this is what made me feel awful for Valkyrae. We need to understand what happened. Who was really behind the brand? Who should we have really blamed? Who should have people really been calling a scammer? Whilst the razor sharp business minds behind Ideovation Labs were able to pretty much just disappear with the close of Reflect, moving on with their lives and careers with little to no consequences, Valkyrae was left holding the bag. Most people have no idea who ran Ideovation Labs, who convinced Valkyrae to launch a skincare line, who allegedly carried out this groundbreaking research that they couldn't possibly release. Why not release it now? But they knew who Valkyrae was. She was the face of it. So it's understandable that most people aimed their anger and criticisms at her. I don't like it. But that's what happens when you're an influencer or a celebrity and you are the face of a brand. And although when it goes wrong, the influencers involved definitely aren't blameless, that doesn't mean that they're the only one to blame. So I just want to talk a little bit about the other people who are involved in creating influencer brands, the ones who usually get away scot-free. And that begs the question, who was really behind the brand? According to Valkyrae, this all started when Ideovation Labs approached her through her agent, asking if she'd be interested in creating a skincare line. She decided to meet with them, and in that meeting, they apparently bought a bunch of sample products for her to try out. So these were probably just basic products, right? White label, then maybe add the odd ingredient here or there to create something that fits whatever branding they end up going for. But this is pretty common with influencer deals. Brand incubators like Ideovation will often have a base product that they just change slightly depending on which influencer they're working with. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely how it went here, but that's pretty common for the industry. Now, during the meeting, they apparently asked Valkyrae if there was anything specific she was interested in making to take the brand down a road that kind of fits her image. That's when she asked if there was any research into the effects of blue light from screens, because it was something that she had heard a little bit about, and obviously interested her because of her career as a gamer. This is when Ideovation probably should have told her that there was no evidence supporting the idea that blue light from screens is an issue for skin, but apparently that's not what they did. Instead, they encouraged the idea, even saying that they'd carry out their own research into the subject. 6 months later, they came back with the research completed, and would you know it, they conveniently made groundbreaking discoveries about the dangers of blue light and how to prevent damage from it. In that live stream I mentioned earlier, Valkyrae said, "They ran tests for 6 months with chemists in labs. I saw the research with my own eyeballs. I was really excited because I thought it was groundbreaking research. I was excited. I thought it was going to help people." So after they convinced her of a scientific viability of the brand, they agreed to go ahead with Create and Reflect together. At this point, Valkyrae was given the role of creative collaborator, which is a pretty vague sounding in my opinion, but again, it's a normal title for an influencer to be given in this kind of deal. However, Valkyrae said she'd asked Ideovation if she could use a different title because she wanted something shorter that would look prettier in her bio. Ideovation said that she could call herself a co-founder, but despite the very impressive sounding title, in reality, her actual role in the process was still that of a collaborative creator. Again, in the live stream, she described her role. She said, "I saw Reflect's research. I loved it. I thought it was so sick. My involvement with Reflect for the next year and a half was that they would send me samples of the products. I tested the smell, the texture, the packaging. That was my involvement. I am not a chemist. I have never been to the lab in person. I have just seen the research and all of that. So Valkyrae was just doing the normal influencer stuff, testing the products, giving feedback on the packaging, that sort of thing. Then who was doing the rest of it? That brings us back to Ideovation Labs. The company was co-founded by Joanna Coles, who I mentioned earlier, and Claudia Puccia. Joanna, despite her terrible tweets, sorry, it's so bad, was actually experienced in the media and publishing world, would you believe it? Having been the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan US and the former chief content creator at Hearst, which is a media conglomerate which owns Cosmopolitan, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Esquire, and a bunch of other popular magazines. I keep thinking about that tweet. It wasn't even that time when people were like tweeting like that, you know? Claudia Puccia was the one with a beauty industry experience, having held senior roles at several major beauty brands like Estee Lauder, Red Flag, and Shiseido. She was also previously the global president of Mark, just Mark, which is the youth-focused sub-brand of famous beauty MLM, Avon. She already had experience pushing questionable brands to younger consumers, so it's no wonder Reflect ended up being the same thing. These were the people who were really in charge of Reflect. They were the ones who paid for the research, who convinced Valkyrae it was real, who refused to publish any of it, even when Valkyrae was receiving a massive amount of hate because of it. Valkyrae may have been the face, but she wasn't the one in this partnership who was experienced in beauty or business or science in any way whatsoever. Joanna and Claudia were supposed to be the ones who made sure the product Reflect put out what worked, something that worked, anything that worked, products that people needed, products that weren't based on fake scientific claims. They failed to do that, and Valkyrae's the one who paid the price for it. And I just kind of want to say, I said it on my other video really, but a lot of people were saying that Valkyrae should have done her own research. She should have looked into this a bit more. No, absolutely not. When people say, Google it. Google is free. Do your own research. That is the worst fucking thing you can do. You can find anything you want in Google. If I want to find proof that blue light from screens is affecting my skin, I can go onto Google, find articles from Allure, for example, blog posts from people, blog posts with titles that might not even be relevant to the science that is behind blue light. I can find WebMD articles, I can find studies and research, but without that knowledge of a scientist who can read through those studies with an education to understand why that study might not be accurate, what went wrong in this study, what we need to question in this study. It's not enough to read a study conclusion and to think that's an accurate representation of the study as a whole. This is when people should be trusting the scientists. This is when people should be trusting the labs. This is when people should be, you show somebody who isn't involved in the skincare industry, even as an influencer who doesn't know the ins and outs of this industry, you show her science. You show that person studies. Somebody in a lab coat is telling them blue light from screens is harmful for your skin. You're going to believe it. You put your faith and your trust in these people. There is no way she could have gone off and accurately done her research outside of the people who were already telling her, this is fact, this is real. Because those people are still the ones online too. This brand saw an opportunity. They saw a famous influencer who they knew could sell their product, and they took full advantage of her. And I just know the fight she had to fight to get out of that contract, to even do that live stream, to even tweet in any way whatsoever, the legal repercussions, the monetary repercussions, the legal repercussions, like I really felt for her at that time. What's annoying is the products were actually very, very nice. The concept was great. The concept was kind of genius if it was real. A gaming skincare brand? What else could they do? I mean, they could have turned it around and just done it a skincare line to help with fatigue. Eye drops, eye products, revitalizing things, but it was just the worst science. But I will die on the hill that Valkyrae honestly put her trust in the wrong people who she should have been able to trust. So when people were saying she should have done her own research, the research she would have got was from these people, from these types of people who she just happened to know now in real life. So it would have made no difference whatsoever. Doing your own research as somebody who isn't science literate or educated in cosmetic chemistry, Don't do it. Don't do it. But this scenario, like, isn't particularly special in any way. Most influencer brands are structured this way. I think we all know by now that the majority of influencers or celebrities that launch a skincare or beauty brand probably didn't have that much to do with actually creating the products, especially when they didn't have any real experience in skincare or beauty in the first place. Like Valkyrae, they probably tested out some sample products, gave the odd opinion here or there on the packaging or the texture or the scent of a product, but really they're just there to be the face of the brand and to provide built-in customers with their existing follower. It's merch, in my opinion. It often leads to like disappointing products and brands that slowly fade into irrelevance. Maybe not that quickly as Reflect, but they go. But despite the many, many failed influencer brands we've seen over the years, Reflect is probably still the best example of how quickly things can go wrong when the face of a brand doesn't have any real control over it. I'm pretty sure it holds the record for the shortest lifespan of any influencer brand ever, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Let me know what you think of Reflect here, because there are many other brands that push this blue light from your screen narrative, like Millie Bobby Brown's line, but it's not the main point of their brand, you know? Do you think Valkyrie was to blame for this? What do you think? What do you think I'm too soft on her? I don't really know her all that well, but from an outsider situation, it looks like they just took advantage of somebody who put their trust in the wrong people. And do you think Reflect's secret research actually exists? Is it lost media? Let me know in the comments down below, and hopefully I'll see you next time.